What would you do to steal somebody who is on mission on purpose? What would you do to steal that health from somebody? It's like I hear this voice and it's like I wouldn't steal it with obvious destruction. It would be through subtle, insidious, and consistent actions that actually encourage neglect and complacency, that ultimately are built on poor decisions that ultimately manifested in something you thought was normal but was actually dysfunctional. And so it would come up in something like creating distraction and busyness, make people feel like they don't have time to prioritize their health, flood their schedules with work, family obligations, with endless distractions that make them feel like self-care is impractical or even selfish. We would normalize unhealthy habits. We'd make poor nutrition, lack of sleep, sedentary lifestyles feel normal and acceptable, market ultra-processed foods as convenient or harmless while glorifying hustle culture that minimizes rest. We'd foster addiction to quick fixes because if we can convince them that pills, diets, and shortcuts will solve their problems, we ultimately maintain control and taking the control out of the hands of the people that actually have it. We'd plant seeds of doubt and hopelessness, whispering things like, you're too old to get healthy, you've already failed too many times, this is just how life is now, this is what 40 looks like, and defeat people even from trying to start.
This is StRest. I'm Kerstin Lindquist, health coach, author, and Emmy award-winning TV host. I've committed to helping people reduce stress through impressive health science, attainable mindset change, and biblical truth. Let's have a real conversation with zero judgment and endless solutions that you can use. You aren't alone. You can do this. Let me help you reduce stress and make room for rest. Hey, quick break. You want to know something that I do every single day? I boost. I call it boosting. Not only do I have a delicious protein shake from Vita Hustle every single day, I also boost. I take the vanilla and I put it in my oatmeal or my millet to give it some sweetness, or my non-fat Greek yogurt to give it some sweetness, plus extra protein. Have I mentioned lately how much you need protein? You need protein, but you also need your plants and your vegetables and your superfoods, which there are 86 of in Vita Hustle. I had the chance to work with a lot of different protein brands, and this one wins hands down with ingredients. They are the cleanest. There is no sugar alcohols, very little sugar, and it's all the natural sugar, Whole Foods, quality soil, 5 grams of sugar or less. I talk about it all the time. And it's all from monk fruit and stevia. Plus, you're getting ashwagandha for menopause support and cognition. You're getting biotin for hair, skin, and nails, pre and probiotics, so you don't have the gut problems that you sometimes have with other plant-based proteins. 20 grams of plant-based protein. Do it as often as you can, and it tastes divine. This summer, I think you should try the cafe latte. It has a little bit of caffeine in it, like 100 milligrams, and it's the most delicious treat. Everybody loves the strawberry. I'm a chocolate girl, chocolate, and more chocolate, and I always have to have the vanilla so I can do my boosting. That's a boost. You can get 20% off of Vita Hustle right now by going to www.vitahustle.com and putting in the code Kerstin20. That's vitahustle.com. Put in the code Kerstin20 for something that tastes great, never gritty, not too sweet, all the good ingredients, and it gives you your protein. vitahustle.com. Put in the code Kerstin20. Justin Roethlingshoefer is a human performance expert. He is driven by data. He's a longevity practitioner, and he has over 2 decades of expertise in optimizing health and performance. His mission is clear. It's to empower, educate, and equip people to take ownership of their health so that they can fully live out their God-given mission. Oh yeah, you know what? We have him on the podcast now, don't you? He is a former health and performance expert in the NCAA and the NHL, and he's the creator of Own It. It's an elite health coaching ecosystem. He's also a very sought-after speaker, consultant, USA Today bestselling author, and a podcast host of the Own It Show. And he's here today to teach us about how we're all individually unique. We're going to talk HRV. We're going to talk about VO2 max. We're going to give you the perfect recipe for exercise to increase both of those. We'll touch on sleep as well, toxins, and we're of course going to talk about Jesus. I learned so much in this podcast, and I can't wait to share it with you. You ready to own it? Let's go. All right, Justin, what is your story? What's your path to being here and helping people ultimately get healthy?
And so, to be honest with you, when a lot of people look at me today and they see me on stage, or they see me competing at High Rocks events or running these crazy races, they're like, my gosh, of course you're in health. Health has been so easy for you. You've always had your health. This is just a part of what you do. Because it's your business, I guarantee you just work out all day. And none of that could actually be further from the truth, is that going back all the way to when I was 8 years old, I just had this deep desire and this deep knowing that I just heard the voice of God say like, hey, you're going to be a part of the redemption story of the health of America. And it was a weight I was willing to pick up as a young child, but I didn't realize that weight wasn't actually that I was going to be a doctor, wasn't actually that I was going to be thriving in my health, wasn't actually that I was going to have easy street and just be the expert, but rather that I was going to have to walk through some real fiery roads for a long time after having been, I was the fat kid. I was the fat kid everybody made fun of. I was the fat kid that had ADD and OCD tendencies. I was dyslexic. I was the weird kid that only was validated on the athletic field. From there, I became the anorexia kid that at 15, 16 had his kidneys and liver shut down and had to be fed through feeding tubes and threatened to be admitted to hospitals just to be able to actually get back to what was necessary. The addicted kid became the depressed kid, the suicidal kid, the kid that was addicted to pain pills, the guy that couldn't figure out where he wanted to go, but yet lived this secret life behind, all while being athletic. And so that was the story of what I had to walk through that led me to my 2 undergraduate degrees, my master's degree, my postgraduate doctoral research, my work in functional medicine, my work in massage therapy, all simply for the pursuit of an answer as to why was I like this? Why was I operating this way? Why did my body do this to me? Why was I in this place? Because when I step back to it, I go to all those doctors I went to. I felt completely unheard, completely unseen, quite frankly, gaslit in a lot of rooms because it was just what's broken, how do we fix it, and what's wrong with you? Rather than realizing I was a human being, something was going on. I didn't know what was going on. More than anything, I was just confused and irritated and really wanting just to feel better. And so that was the first start of my journey that led me to really working in the NCAA and the NHL, creating these N of 1 solutions, treating people in a data-driven way, but a human-focused way. Realizing that when you understand the language of the body, when you understand the human being, the person, the way that God created you, you can actually put yourself in environments to allow yourself to heal itself. And doing this for 10 years and being on the road and living the lifestyle of what professional sports does took a toll. And at 30 years old, 32 actually, I started to have brain fog that I've never had before. I started to bloat every single time I ate. I started to have headaches that wouldn't go away. I started to fall asleep, not stay asleep. I started to have anxieties that would come up periodically. And I was like, my gosh, like what's going on? And so again, I was like, this is 15 years after this big mess that I had been through as a teenager. And I guarantee you there has to be things that have changed. I've got the best doctors in the NHL now. They've got to be able to look at me differently. They'd run all my tests. They say, no, you're perfectly fine. I don't know what's wrong. I was like, okay, well, functional medicine's a thing now. So let me go to a functional medicine doc. Went in there. They said, hey, take all these tests. Here's a $5,000 bill. We got the results. Here's a bag of supplements. That'll be another $3,000. I still remember my wife and I, we were traveling over to Hawaii during this time, and I had a whole suitcase just for my supplements, just to try to feel okay. Didn't solve anything. And then I remember I was in Chicago. We just played the Blackhawks. I was laying in a hotel, and I shot up like a bolt of lightning in the middle of the night. And I heard the voice of God literally say, why don't you do that same thing on you that you do on your athletes? And it was, look at the data, look at the numbers that I was looking at. And it was at that moment that I started to actually track this stuff: heart rate variability, sleep quality, cellular deficiencies, VO2 max, some key metric as to how our body's operating cellularly. And everything was low. And that prompted me to go and get a couple more screenings done. And they found 4 precancerous polyps in my colon and precancerous ulcer in my stomach, basically told I wouldn't see 35. And that was the moment that, again, God just redirected me and said, hey, I need you to stop serving the audience that you want to serve and serve the audience that I've called you to, because this isn't an athlete problem. This is a human problem. And I've asked you as that 8-year-old boy to solve it. And we've gone on this journey now where you're equipped, ready, and prepared. And so that was really what this whole thing has been about, is not out of a space of having, but rather out of a space of lack that started to create this movement and purpose-driven mission that myself and the rest of our team is on.
You say purpose-driven mission, which is something that we talk a lot about this season in the podcast, is purpose and identity. And do you feel like you have that nailed in your head, or for your business, like this is our purpose, and what is it?
100%. So our purpose is literally to keep tips of the spear sharp, tip of the spear people who are out there making it happen, people who are out there serving, people who are out there doing the thing. They are creators. They are business owners. They are entrepreneurs. They're the ones who are actually leaning into what it is that they've been asked to do. And when you are the tip of the spear person and you're actually out there doing the thing, tips of the spear people get dull. And that's when health starts to go away. Health starts to be pulled. Why? Because if we believe that we are the temple of the Holy Spirit, if we believe in a God that is abundant and exponential in growth, then the business, the mission, the movement that you have today is the smallest it will ever be. And the tool, the vehicle, the vessel that you have been given is the only thing that will continue to be able to make that grow. So what's the enemy going to come after first? And so we want to be that first line of defense for tip of the spear people to keep them sharp.
Amen. So well said. So how do you do it? What are the metrics that you're looking at? And speaking to, I would consider myself a tip of the spear person, but I think a lot of people listening might be like, not so sure. I'm just a regular person. What are the metrics though we should all be looking at?
Yeah. So when you think about this, and again, when I say tip of the spear, yes, business owners, yes, entrepreneurs, yes, people driving movements, but it's people leading families.
Yeah.
It's people leading households. It's people who are leading teams. And I think oftentimes we set ourselves shy on what our actual purpose is. And so we become complacent with what the world has told us. And this is why we often find ourselves exhausted, burnt out, not knowing which way to turn, our hormones all out of whack, this weight that we can't seem to lose. And it all comes back to what we've accepted as normal. And before I dive into some of those metrics, I just want to kind of read something here, because when we think about this concept of how do we actually maintain our health in a powerful way and make sure it's something that we as believers can steward well, it's not as easy as just being able to say, hey, I'm here. Hey, I'm doing this. Hey, I'm living. But there's a degree of intentionality that's required, because if we were created by an intentional God, then that means that we have to live intentionally to ultimately realize what's on the other side. And so if we asked Satan, what would you do to steal somebody's health? What would you do to steal somebody who is on mission on purpose? What would you do to steal that health from somebody? It's like I hear this voice and it's like I wouldn't steal it with obvious destruction. It would be through subtle, insidious, and consistent actions that actually encourage neglect and complacency, that ultimately are built on poor decisions that ultimately manifested in something you thought was normal but was actually dysfunctional. And so it would come up in something like creating distraction and busyness, make people feel like they don't have time to prioritize their health, flood their schedules with work, family obligations, with endless distractions that make them feel like self-care is impractical or even selfish. We would normalize unhealthy habits. We'd make poor nutrition, lack of sleep, sedentary lifestyles feel normal and acceptable, market ultra-processed foods as convenient or harmless while glorifying hustle culture that minimizes rest. We'd foster addiction to quick fixes, because if we can convince them that pills, diets, and shortcuts will solve their problems, we ultimately maintain control and taking the control out of the hands of the people that actually have it. We'd plant seeds of doubt and hopelessness, whispering things like, you're too old to get healthy. You've already failed too many times. This is just how life is now. This is what 40 looks like. And defeat people even from trying to start. Or we'd ultimately encourage comparison and shame, saying, hey, social media, cultural standards, this is what you have to look like. If you don't have this, then it actually wasn't something that was created for you, because if it wasn't created for you, then you'll actually stop trying. We're going to make this whole health thing overwhelming. We're going to flood you with contradictory information about health, about fitness, about nutrition. We're going to confuse you with endless options that make you feel paralyzed and ultimately do nothing. We're going to undermine the spiritual and emotional resilience that has to do with the core root of your health. We're going to encourage and even ignore that spiritual root, because at the end of the day, when I can disconnect you from your purpose, from God, from the deeper meaning behind your health, without that why, it's really hard to stay disciplined on the how. And then lastly, I'm going to make sure that I isolate you from community, convincing you that you don't need people, that you don't need support, that you don't need accountability, that you don't need a coach, you don't need a team, you don't need people around you. Because if you don't have people around you, I can make you feel alone. I could actually make you feel alone in your struggles. I can remove the encouragement. I can remove all the things that we need in order to actually feel rooted, grounded, and powerful in this pursuit, this journey of finding what true health actually looks like.
Well, if I could stand up right now and clap, I would absolutely do that. This is why you need to get Justin to come speak at your next event, because you know exactly what everybody's saying. That sounds a whole lot like the world we're living in right now. That's and when you preface that with the question of what would Satan do,
Yeah.
and then you go, oh my goodness, he would put us in the world that we live in.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
hard.
Yes. Is that not wild though? Like, think about that. Think about what you just said. What would Satan do? He would literally do exactly what we're doing right now.
What's happening right now? But
Right
from
now.
social media to processed food to loneliness and isolation to overwhelm, all of it.
And then we wonder, yeah, but here's, so let me ask you a question. Because when I hear that, I actually feel so empowered. I actually feel so equipped because we've just shone light on what the lies are. We've just shone light on what a lot of people can't figure out or can't seem to understand. Why do I keep getting stuck? Because it was designed this way. If we've just shone light on it, you're not crazy. You're not wrong. You're
Yeah.
not alone. You're not by yourself. You're not broken. In fact, all you are is human. All you are is experiencing what everybody else is. And now what we have to do, now that we know what we are up against, now that we know what our opponents are doing, my gosh, you have the blueprint, you have the tagline. So now we just have to listen to the language of our body, listen to what your body's saying, and just choose a life that's different.
It's also a difference between you living in the world and living in the Lord.
Yes.
Living in the world and living in the Lord. So when you're feeling all of these feelings and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm not crazy. This is exactly how it is. But then you have a chance to choose. Do I choose the world and all of these contradictory messages that I'm hearing and all this stuff? Or do I choose a relationship with the Heavenly Father and living outside the world?
So you just did, so I, during my keynotes are never like sage from the stage moments. They're more of like entertainment throughout the whole thing. And so I do this one little piece and I actually grab 2 ladders or 2 step stools or whatever I have in the location that I'm in. And if you ever seen 2 ladders put together, you have the ladders, you open them up, they're kind of like this, right? And so they're bigger at the base, narrow at the top. And so I put the 2 feet together on one side. And so they kind of move away from each other. And what I do is I put 1 foot on one ladder, 1 foot on the other. And I slowly start to walk up. And I say, a lot of you are in this position right now where you want to make all the money in the world and you're focused on this, but then you also want to go to church on Sunday and feel rooted. You want to ultimately feel healthy and go to the gym, but at the same time, you want to go to the bars with your friends and kind of hang out. Then you want to go, and I slowly start giving these contradictions in the habits and behaviors that you have. And what happens is there comes to a crux where if I took one more step on either ladder, I would go into the splits, the ladders would slide out from under me, and I would tumble and fall down to the ground. Yeah. And I say, you are at a crux in your life at this very moment, and you have to take a choice. You have to take a choice as to whether you are going to go and put both feet and turn and be in the world. And if that's your choice, then that's okay. But realize that there's consequences that come with this. Or you can turn and you can say, I'm going to go and do exactly what God has for me. I'm going to go and say exactly what the Lord wants me to do. I'm going to go and be obsessively obedient in each one of these steps. And I'm going to live differently. And if I'm choosing to live differently, I know that the consequences that come with that are far more enjoyable than the consequences that come when I turn the other way. And this just hits people in such a powerful way, because when we start to talk about the tactics, the things that you can do, the language of your body, the data we can track, the things that can actually give us insights to how cellularly we are functioning, it starts to open everybody's eyes. But if you don't have the concept of, well, I actually have to make a choice, there's something I actually have to do now, there's this disconnect where you walk out the door and you haven't left different, you've just left entertained. And I don't want to entertain you, I want to transform you. Entertainment's easy. I'm not in that business. I'm in the business of transformation. And once we can actually transform you at the heart center, that's what ultimately redeems and renews the mind, which ultimately establish a new foundation for how we live.
That's great. My favorite thing you said was obsessively obedient.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
it's something that's been prophesied over me a few times. They said, Justin, if I was to say you were anything, you're obsessively obedient. And I've had to come across to the point where, yes, I'm obsessively obedient, but I've had to learn what patient practice looks like.
Goodness. I can relate.
Because I'll be the first one to say yes. I'll be the first one to say, hey, Lord, you told me this? Good, I'm moving. And as soon as I move, he was like, no, idiot, not now, like tomorrow. Like, not right. I want you to go left. I told you, yes, you're right. I want you to do this, but let's just delay this. So it's a process I'm trying to work on.
That's great. Again, very much relate. We'll be right back. Don't go away. It's just getting good. Hey, quick pause. This is when you wish you were watching the show, which you can do on YouTube, by the way, because what you're going to see is that I do not really have much makeup on, a little bit of lip gloss, and my absolute favorite, Dr. Deness Skin Science. This is her Tinted Defense Day Cream SPF 40. You can see by my bottle that I use it every single day. And this is the supersized bottle, which is what you absolutely need. It gives me the protection that I need because it has SPF. It gives me the blur because it has those pigments. But most importantly, like all of Dr. Deness's skincare products, they actually work. She uses the most of the efficacious ingredients, and they're all clean. You know, I wouldn't talk to you about anything in your skincare or your beauty that wasn't clean beauty. This brand really has changed my skin. Listen, I'm 47 years old. I need a little extra help. I'll tell you where to start. Other than the skin defense, you're going to need Hydro Shield. Oh my goodness, the hydration. It has changed my deeply dehydrated life and makes it look like perhaps I got all the sleep and I have no stress and I didn't cry in the bathroom after my kids went to sleep at night. It really, really works. Everything does. And with clean beauty. And because we want you to have your own midlife glow up and be able to be, I don't know, maybe makeup free from time to time like I am right now. Dr. Deness has given you a little something off. Go to drdeness.com and use the code STRESSED. That's STREST for a discount. You'll thank me later. Now back to the show. All right, so let's dive into then. Let's work this out in our bodies and our brains. How does this work for you? What do you look at?
Yeah, so there's really 4 things that I start to dive in and help people understand, because our body has a language. Like, how cool that the Lord designed us with a language in which we could actually learn what it is that's going on at any given point in time. And so we have to come back to the fundamental truth, that the fundamental truth is that you were born a champion. You were born from championship genes. Why? One sperm had to win and hit that egg in order for you to actually even be conceived. So you were born from championship genes. I don't just say that to say, oh, you're a champion. No, you were literally a champion. You were born from championship genes. The world is the one that has told you and taught you that you're average and just good enough. And so if we can hold on to the fundamental truth that you were born from 2 cells that multiplied and exponentially grew to where today, each one of us has about 30 to 40 trillion cells inside of our body, synergistically working together to function and maintain life. That's the truth. That's how we've been built. Cellular health is the key to maintaining energy, to maintaining longevity, to maintaining vitality, to maintaining all of these mental, physical acuity points that we actually desire. And so cellular health is where we need to look. The reality of our cells is that 300 to 400 million of them completely turn over every 84 to 90 days, depending on who you are. And so what's that reality? That every 5 years, we become a brand new, completely renewed cellular human being. And so if that's the way that we were developed, if that's the way we were built, that every 90 days we're seeing cellular regeneration, if there's 300 trillion cells synergistically working together to make our body function, then cells are probably pretty important. And there's 4 key things that cells need in order to function and stay operating at its elite level. They need oxygen, they need the ability to remove toxins, and they need nutrients. And so if we look at these 3 core components, if they don't get these, ultimately the 4th thing it needs to do is be able to resist stress. And so each one of these 4 things now ultimately also has a language. Let's start with stress. The language that our body communicates through stress is heart rate variability. It's how our heart is beating different time intervals between successive beats. The higher our HRV number, you can find that on a Whoop band, you can find that on an Oura ring, you can find that on an Apple Watch. You go to your app, Apple Health, go to the bottom right corner, go to browse, click on heart rate variability, you'll find your number. A higher number is better, a lower number is alert. So if you're 45...
Wait, just one second. Could you go back to what you said before? The heart rate variability is the level of stress that your body's under? Say that again, that sentence.
Heart rate variability is the language in which our body's communicating how well it's adapting to stress.
Distress. That's so good. Okay. Right. So you can find it on all of these different devices. Ultrahuman, Oura, Whoop, Apple. Do you get into the minutia of what's better, what's worse, what people should wear?
I do. So I'm a big Whoop and Oura guy.
Mhm.
I just think their platforms are the easiest to understand. I think they're the easiest to work. I think their data is the most accurate. Ultra Humans coming up behind it. I just think that how they display their information is way too much. It's overcomplicated. But again, I don't look at any of the fancy algorithms. I don't care about regeneration scores or recovery scores or sleep scores. I want to know, what is your heart rate variability? Because if I know your HRV, that's the raw data that we can use to actually understand our body better. And so you come back to like this component of what Satan would do is he would confuse you. So the tech companies, in owning all of these different algorithms and these different unique value props that they're trying to take ownership of so they can drive value for their companies, they really don't have you in mind. They have this unique value prop in mind that they're trying to create so that keeps people in confusion unless they need the product still. And so if you were actually just to be able to understand HRV, you could understand how your habits, behaviors, and lifestyle were either working for you or against you based upon the rhythm of habits that you've created. And so mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, real or perceived, positive, negative, past, present, or future stresses, the body doesn't know the difference. And so we have to become very intentional as to what we're doing and what we're giving the body to ultimately make sure that we can see the improvement. And so let's say a 45-year-old, for an example. If you're a 45-year-old individual and you don't have an HRV that is 50 to 70, and that's your average, 50 to 70. If you don't have an HRV that's 50 to 70 and it's below that, that's an alert. It's like, hey, the rhythm of your life, the rhythm of what you're doing, the habits, behaviors, your body's under more stress than is necessary, and you're actually aging at an accelerated rate at the cellular level. So that's what heart rate variability is. So that looks at number 4.
So let's pause there for a second, because I am super interested in HRV. It's something that I've been looking at for years. And I find that in people listening to this podcast, watching people in my circles, working at QVC with different hosts and celebrities and all of that, mainly women 40 and above, even in their 50s. HRV is extremely low. We're talking teens, 20s. We get to 40s and 50s and we're like, oh my goodness, it's so great. And I had heard in the past that it's not necessarily like you really can't judge against somebody else. But what I'm hearing you say is, yeah, there is actually a range where you should be.
100%. That's the biggest lie out there. Is you hear from people all the time, oh, I just have a genetically low HRV. No, you don't. Like if I actually went into your data and I actually went through all of your data, Kerstin, and I started to look and I started to bounce into some past dates and some things. And I said, okay, Kerstin, what happened on January 18th? Let's just say January 18th was the highest day that you had, and it was 61. And you went back to that and you were like, oh my gosh, well, I got a great workout in that morning. I spent the whole day with my family. But you know what? We had a barbecue at the house. We cooked really clean. It was amazing. You know what? My husband had a celebratory moment that we all were able to have together. I went to bed early that night. Okay, makes sense, right? And so then we start to dive into some of the things that we'll get into numbers 1, 2, and 3, because numbers 1, 2, and 3 will actually start to tell us why heart rate variability has such a drastic change and why it's such a great predictor of cellular health. Because what do we know? Cellular health needs oxygen, it needs the ability to repair, and it needs nutrients. And so when it doesn't have these 3, it shows us that we have a low heart rate variability number. And that low number is an alert and it's an awareness metric. I've yet to see anyone who has a low HRV score that is fit, that sleeps well, and that eats well while also supplementing based on what their body needs. I've yet to see somebody with a low HRV score that does all of those things. And it comes back to the core components of oxygen, nutrients, and the ability to remove and repair toxins.
Okay. Well, it's so fascinating and frustrating at the same time. Should this be a therapy session for me? But it's going to be because it's my podcast for a second. When we were missionaries in 2023, we went down to Mexico to serve for 3.5 months. Me and my family, we're a family of 5. I've got 3 kids. My heart rate variability was the highest it ever was. Like I was living in the 50s. I was 45, I think. And so I felt like that was really, really good for me because I hadn't seen anything higher than that before. So I was feeling really, really great about living in the 50s. Occasionally I get a 60. I was like, oh, this is great.
And
I came home.
let me just pause you for a second, because what did I say before? I didn't know any of your numbers. Did we talk about your numbers before?
Right. No, we didn't. Never.
I said, if you're 45 years old, we should see numbers probably in that average between 50 and 70. And what did you just say? Yeah, I was like,
the 50s.
Well, I was 45 years old. And I was seeing numbers in the 50s. I even saw a couple in the 60s.
Right. So
Case
Yeah.
rested.
We literally did not talk before this about any of this. So, okay, I come home. I'm back in corporate America. God's putting a little pressure on me that, oh, hey, that stuff that you were doing, we're going to need you to do that full time. And I'm saying, no, because I have to support a family. And I'm really good at being a host on QVC. And I've got the #1 show. And anyway, that was a big conversation. But I was also in corporate America, also very, very tired. So my numbers drop, right? And then I'm in the 20s and the 30s. And then I'm kind of living in the 30s. And if I get to a 40, I'm super, super excited. But at the same time, Justin, and I'm getting better because I left my corporate job about a month and a change ago. I'm so fired up on life. I'm probably a little overwhelmed. Remember you saying you listen to the Lord and he's like, do this. And I was like, okay, we're going to do everything right now. And God's saying, no, let's slow down a little bit and let me do some work. So I know that there's some balance that needs to happen. But at the same time, I am that person who I sleep great because I guard my sleep. That's what I keynote speak on is sleep. I eat so well and so clean. I exercise every single day. So I have a hard time figuring out what it is that's impacting my HRV. And I bet you could tell me.
It's awesome. So I hear this all the time. Justin, I work out every day. Justin, I eat really clean. Justin, I focus on my sleep. So let's go back to these 3 things. Okay. So the 3 things that impact HRV at its greatest level. Yes, there's a bunch of other things we talk about. Yes, there's a lot of things that go on. Oxygen has everything to do with the language of VO2 max. We're going to come back to that in a second. The ability to remove toxins. This has everything to do with sleep quality. Nutrients has everything to do with cellular deficiencies. So hold on to these 3. Hopefully you've made notes. Hopefully you've written them down because I just told you the language of your body that's communicating each one of these deficiencies. So let's go to the first one, which is fitness. And I hear it all the time. Justin, I work out every day. Justin, I get on my Peloton every day. Justin, I go for a run every day. Justin, I go to the gym every day. But I'm not improving. I'm not changing weight. I'm not losing weight. I'm not changing body composition. I feel like I'm stagnant. I feel like I haven't changed anything, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. VO2 max is the language of our body in which it's communicating how efficient it is at utilizing oxygen. Somebody who has a higher VO2 max number means you have a higher efficiency for oxygen utilization. Now, let me ask you a question. If you have higher oxygen efficiency, are you going to have less stress or more stress in your body?
Less stress.
Less stress. If you have a higher oxygen efficiency, than I do, let's say your number is 50, my number is 30. Let's just throw a number out there. Is it going to be more stressful on my body or your body to sleep at night?
I don't know. I got confused with the question. Tell me.
That's okay. So if your VO2 max is higher than my VO2 max,
right?
So you have a greater oxygen efficiency than I do. Is it going to be more stressful on my body or your body to sleep at night?
More stressful on your body.
On my
You're
body.
going to need better sleep because you're not getting as good a sleep.
Let's not even go to sleep quality yet. Let's just say straight up to sleep. It's going to be harder on my body to get the oxygen it needs to sleep because I'm not as efficient.
Right.
Is it going to be more stressful on your body or my body to walk upstairs?
Yours.
Mine. Is it going to be more stressful on your body or my body to carry groceries?
Yours.
Mine. To exercise?
Yours.
Mine. To play with our kids?
Yeah, yours.
Mine. So VO2 max is the language in which it is communicating how well we're utilizing oxygen. But 95% of people don't know what their VO2 max number is. They have no clue. They've never measured it. So instead, they're going and working out every day. They're going on their Peloton. They're paying their trainer $2,500 a month to go and just, quite frankly, do nothing because they started the year at 40 and they ended the year at 40. Well, you didn't improve. You didn't see any more efficiency. You didn't get any better. You didn't gain any more capacity. It'd be like, Kerstin, if I came to you and I said, hey, Kerstin, give me $1 million. I'm going to go invest it. And a year from now, I'm going to give you that $1 million back. You'd be like, no, I want at least some type of return on it.
Yeah.
So what happens is so many people spend time working out instead of investing time working out. They don't get anything for what they're doing. And so if you ultimately measured your VO2 max, which again, we do on all of our clients, but if you're just sitting here and you want to figure it out, go on a treadmill or go to a track, run as far as you can in 12 minutes, cover whatever distance you can, write that distance down, and take that distance, multiply it by 35.97, and then subtract 11.291. That's going to give you your VO2 max number. For men, the VO2 max number should be above 40. For women, above 38. Distance covered to hit the minimums in that 12 minutes for women should be between 1.2 and 1.3 miles. For men, it should be between 1.5 and 1.6. So immediately we now have a barometer. And so if you're lower than that, it's like, oh my God, this is a wake-up call because my HRV is low, not because something's broken in it, but rather because I'm not efficient enough at utilizing oxygen. And so now that I know that, how do we improve VO2 max? Three things.
Tell me.
Three things. Number one, you're going to have to spend 120 minutes a week in zone 2. Zone 2 is 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. That means we need to be intentional enough to know what our max heart rate is. If we have never tracked heart rate before, we're going to take our age subtracted by 220. So all of a sudden, again, let's go off of, let's do this for you live because it's your show. We can do whatever we want.
I love it. Let's do it.
So 220 minus your age, which is
47.
47, which gives us an approximate, okay, remember estimate, because you don't have a heart rate monitor on you, we haven't tracked this, is 173 beats per minute. That's going to be your estimated
My zone
max.
2. Okay.
No, that's your estimated max. So,
My max, okay.
So 60 to 70% of that. So your zone 2 is 104 beats per minute, all the way up to 124 beats per minute. So 104 to 124.
Tell me how that feels. So and guys, if you get one of these trackers, it does all this for you. Like it shows you when you're in zone 2, it shows you your HRV, it shows you VO2 max. However, I feel like sometimes I'm wearing a tracker that I'm like, I am in zone 3 and it is telling me that I am still in zone 1. What does it feel like when you're in 2?
So let's go conversationally. You can keep a conversation, but it's hard.
Okay.
That's how it should feel. Theoretically.
Okay.
And so you need to be in that zone for 2 hours a week. That means you could do 2 1-hour-long sessions. That means you could do 4 30-minute sessions. It doesn't matter, but it needs to be in that zone for that same duration of time. Second thing, 30 minutes of zone 5. That means 90 to 100%. So that means we're going to have to push. That is a all-out sprint repeat interval in repeat intervals on the treadmill, on the track, on a bike, pushing a sled, whatever you're looking at. But for you, it's going to be between 158 beats per minute and 174. That's where we need to be. And that's the level of precision that we can start to execute on. That now, as we do that over the course of a week, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, you start to see VO2 max increase. You also start to see HRV increase. Because now there's less stress on the body because you're more efficient with utilizing oxygen. Thus, behind the scenes, there's less stress on your body that is now adapting to.
So if we make it super simplistic, and oh my goodness, everybody's going to have to go back and listen again and take notes and then stop it and take notes and then stop it and take notes. But if we're making this simplistic, your HRV and your VO2 max is going to be extremely impacted by cardio.
100%.
Because we're hearing a lot now at women who are 50 plus that not so much cardio, more weightlifting.
So that's number 3. So number 3 is weight training 3 times a week. Now, here's the thing when we talk about weight training, and this is again a big tip and tool people can take away, is Kerstin, if we were to go into a gym and I was to say, okay, Kerstin, I want you to do 3 sets of 10 reps on the dumbbell bench press. You'd go in, you'd grab your 15s, you'd go on your back, you'd press for 10, you put them down, I'd give you a high five, we talk for a second, you pick them back
Whatever,
up.
I do 25s.
Okay, sorry. So she's grabbing 25s. Okay, so she's grabbing 25s. She's repping out 10 reps. She puts them down. We give a little fist bump. We give a high five. We hang out. We talk. She picks those 25s back up. She does 10 more reps. She puts them down. We give another fist bump. We talk a little bit. And before I said, hey, Kerstin, before you go and do 10 more reps, I want you this time to go grab those 25s and do as many reps as you can. And so she picks them up. She does 10. She does 15. She does 20. And then she gets 21, maybe 22. And then she puts them down on the 23rd. She's like, oh my gosh, that was really hard. And all of a sudden, I ask you, I said, what did you just do for the first 2 sets?
Just lifted my 25s, but not hard enough apparently.
You did nothing because your body doesn't have to adapt to anything. Because it didn't have to adapt to anything, it didn't actually put on any muscle mass. Because it didn't put on any muscle mass, it's actually just wasting your time. And I see it all the time in people at the gym is you would have gone and just done your 3rd set of 10, put them away. But Kerstin, you're coming home and you're picking up a child that weighs more than 50 pounds. You're coming home and you're carrying groceries that weigh more than 25 pounds in each hand. You're coming home and you're moving a wheelbarrow that weighs more than what you just went to the gym and did. So you would have actually been better off staying at home, moving heavy objects than just going and lifting these 25 pounds in each hand. And so there has to be this concept of what I call progressive overload or what I call reps in reserve. So what I would do is I'd change your mindset and we'd program for you specifically so that when you went into the gym, we said, hey, Kerstin, I want you to go in and I want you to do those same 3 sets of 10, but with 2 reps in reserve. What that means is you're going to pick up a weight that you could do for 10 reps, but you don't know if you could get the 12th rep. And so now you're not grabbing 25s, you're grabbing 32 and a halves.
Yeah.
And you feel really good. And on that 9th rep, it's hard. On that 10th rep, you're like, oh my gosh, I could have maybe gotten 11th, but definitely not a 12th. That's your weight. That's where we're going. And all of a sudden you start to do that and you're going to start to see the tone in your arms you want. You're going to start to see the fat loss that you want. You're going to start to see the muscles building that you're looking for. Not a bodybuilder, but a toned, lean body that you're looking for. And also what's going to happen? What's the greatest transportation system of oxygen in the body? The muscles. So when you increase through cardiovascular exercise as well as through weight training in an intentional way, oxygen efficiency increases, ultimately making sure that HRV increases as well.
Wow. I love this prescription. So recap, we're doing how many minutes of zone 2, how many of 5, and how much weightlifting?
120 minutes of zone 2.
Okay.
30 minutes of zone 5.
Okay.
3 days of weight training, all prescribed per week.
And how long should your weight training sessions be?
Yeah, weight training, you're going to be looking at, again, I don't put a time on it. I usually put a volume on it. So what we'd want to do is probably 3 blocks of exercises that have 3 exercises in each block with 3 sets in that same form that I just kind of spoke about.
So when you're working with people or you personally, how much time does that take each week? Like I'm basically working out for an hour each day, or I'm basically working out for, how does it look?
Yeah, I mean, if you break it down, you're looking at 45 minutes a day, 45 to 60, no more than that.
Rest days or no rest days? Do we need rest days?
It's the biggest myth I come back to all the time is like, it's not about creating rest days. It's about creating a habit. And I always say, you're not overtrained, you're under recovered. Because don't tell me that your 45-minute Peloton session overtrained you when all of a sudden we're looking at everything else that the body's capable of. Like if we're actually in that belief thought process, man, have we ever shorted ourselves in the creation that God has done? Like, my gosh, it's the 45-minute Peloton session that sent me over the edge this week.
Right.
But what does this actually look like to build capacity for ourselves? And thus, the reason that, it's hard when I don't have a way to draw it out and chart it. But the reason that I find people getting hurt all the time, the reason I find people who are ultimately just sitting in this no man's land is because when we think of our zones, we've got zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5. I've told you we want to play in zone 2 and zone 5. Zone 2 is kind of like, it feels like a recovery day. It's like, yeah, you're going to get a sweat on, but it's conversational. Go ride a bike for 30 minutes at zone 2. You'll get off and you'll feel like, yeah, I just went and did some good exercise. It felt good. I got a sweat on. Wasn't really that difficult. I sent emails through the whole thing. I texted.
And you could easily be in zone 2 talking to some of the things that we talk about on this podcast, like brisk walk, rucking. Like you could have 30 pounds on your back and go for a brisk walk. Like you could be in zone 2 there.
For some people, yes. This is why I think it's critical that you're measuring heart rate. You have to have you have to have the intention of what you're doing, because it's very easy to go into what I'm going to call here no man's land. Because you go to a lot of Pelotons or a lot of people zones in which they hit with Peloton or Orange Theory or any of these other exercise classes. They go out for just random runs, and you're playing in what we call zone 3 and 4. I call that no man's land because it's not recovery zone enough to get the cardiac efficiency building, and it's not hard enough to actually get the cardiac output creation. And so when you play in this no man's land, it's too hard to be a recovery day, but not hard enough to actually get any major benefit. So you're constantly just putting wear and tear on your body, not actually getting anything out of it, not actually building capacity. And thus you burn out, you get fatigued, you get tired, you get hurt. And then it's this stop and start motion that we actually don't get any benefit from. And so that's why we want to play in zones 2 and zones 5 and do so very intentionally from a cardiovascular standpoint, and then program from a weight training standpoint in a different way.
So good. All right. So you said HRV, you said VO2 max. What are the other 2?
Okay, these 2, we're going to have to go a little quicker. I don't know if I'll be able to get everything in I want to get in. So the third one is being able to understand the language of how do we actually remove toxins from the body? Well, there's something in the body. The language is sleep quality. There's something during sleep. There's 4 stages of sleep. There's a light sleep stage. There's a slow wave sleep stage. There's a REM cycle. And then there's a wake cycle. We go through those in about 90 minutes approximately. What differentiates somebody who sleeps deeply versus somebody who doesn't is the middle two stages. How long are you staying in the REM and slow wave sleep cycles? It's shown, all the data says that 38 to 50% of your total sleep time has to be spent in those middle two stages, or you're not getting the toxicity release from your body that you need at night. Because during those middle two stages, there's something called the glymphatic system, GLY, glymphatic system, that's acting like the car wash for your cells that pulls out all the toxins from the day and ultimately leaves you cleansed in the morning, which is why we ultimately feel better when we get a great night's sleep or a deep night's sleep versus when we don't. And so even though you're sleeping for 8 hours, you may not be getting the quality necessary to get the toxins out of your body, which is why we see early onset Alzheimer's disease, a rise in dementia, a rise in diabetes and blood sugar irregularities, insulin resistance, all of these things that are based upon our cells functioning at a high level. And so again, sleep quality is the language of our body of how fast and how well we are removing toxins from the body.
So you're looking at 38 to 50%, you're in deep and REM.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And if we're below that, it's a simple explanation and it's a simple guidance to, hey, you simply are not getting the toxin release that you need. Thus, those toxins are staying in your cells, and thus your body is under more stress because it has to adapt to that.
It's all connected too, friends. So, I mean, it could be the way you eat, the way you drink, if you drink. It could be you're using sleep aids that are pharmaceutical sleep aids. That's not real sleep most of the time. It could be you're not getting enough exercise. You're not feeding your body and your cells the right way. There's so many different reasons why.
Tons of reasons. And I mean, I've got two very simple takeaways for sleep because I don't want to run out of time. I've got 5 that I usually go through in my keynotes and kind of walk you through, but I go through the first 2. The first one is a consistent sleep and wake time, because at the end of the day, what determines whether you're getting into deep stages of REM and deep or slow wave sleep is that hormonal regulation of circadian rhythm. So it's the cortisol melatonin interaction. How regulated are those hormonal regulations? And the way in which we can do that the best is a consistent sleep and wake time. And so if you go to bed at 10 p.m., go to bed between 10 and 10:30. Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday, September, November, January, June, July. Try to be as consistent as possible. If you wake up at 6, between 6 and 6:30, same thing, Monday, Saturday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, June, July, May, August. And so these are the things that we can do to start to, again, optimize for circadian rhythm. Because I'm sure there's people out there who have gone, you know what, I'm going to sleep in on a Saturday. And they sleep in on a Saturday and they wake up and they feel like they've been hit by a truck all day long. It's like, oh my God, I can't get the cobwebs out. I feel dopey all day. It's just a melatonin hangover because we didn't get the cortisol bump we needed in the morning because it bumped it. But then it was like, oh my gosh, Kerstin's not awake. We need to give her some more melatonin and we're going to suppress cortisol. And thus we were in this all day. And there's also the people who usually go to bed at a certain time. They stay up all night. They get a second wind. And then all of a sudden they get that second wind and then they can't fall asleep. And then when they fall asleep, they actually don't get into those stages of sleep. They just oscillate between a wake cycle and a light sleep cycle. And they wake up exhausted in the morning and that gets them on the caffeine train. And now that whole cycle just operates in and of itself. And now we find ourselves in what we call a inverted circadian rhythm, where you go to bed wired and you wake up tired day in, day out, over and over and over again.
What's number 4?
I love the body.
Oh, wait, no, second sleep.
Second sleep one is simple 3-2-1 rule. So 3 hours before bed, no more food. Simple before bed, 3 hours before bed, no more food. We have 400 times more melatonin produced in our gut than is produced by the pineal gland in our brain. And thus any food we take in limits the secretions through the gut, but also puts us in a sympathetic state and taking us out of that rest and digest state. Number 2, no more heavy decision-making, no more work. So getting rid of a lot of these mental practices, because people always say, Justin, my brain doesn't shut down at night. No, your brain does. You just don't. And so what does it actually look like? Because mental, physical, spiritual, emotional stress, body doesn't know the difference. Once we actually start to engage, increases cortisol. If cortisol increases, melatonin decreases, and thus we're right back into that same inverse reaction. And then 1 hour before bed, no more technology or blue light producing technology, because for every 30 minutes of blue light exposure after the sun sets, suppresses melatonin release by upwards of an hour. So we're actually not going to get peak melatonin release until we actually start to overcome that delay that we've created. And so simply by implementing some of those things, you can start to now track, hey, where am I at in terms of my percentage? And after we identify that, we can really kind of optimize how our body's adapting to stress.
So you can't in the evening do melatonin and cortisol. Can they not be produced at the same time?
Inverse.
Interesting.
Hormones. Yeah, it would be like saying, hey, we're going to give you a glass of oil and water, and I want you to keep them together. Yeah. Last
We
one.
only need 3 hours. Okay. What's number 4 real quick?
Last one is nutrients. And so when we look at
Okay.
nutrients, so many of us think we're eating well, but in actuality, we're actually cellularly deficient in vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. And so many of us have gotten blood work done. We've gotten an LPP, a CBC, a CMP, some type of maybe mineral or vitamin component. But what we've actually done is we've just looked at serum testing, blood serum testing. So it's just what's freely floating through the blood, not what's actually getting from the blood into the cell. The enzymes, the cofactors, the upregulators, all these things that the body's actually having to make sure that we're fueled at the cellular level. And so when we're all of a sudden get a cellular panel done, it's again something we do with all of our clients, it's something we build off of, is now we can understand exactly what deficiencies we have. I go back to myself as that 30-year-old or 32-year-old when I was not feeling well. Everyone said my blood work looked great, but when I went and got my cellular deficiencies done, I had 15. So vitamins, minerals, and amino acids are the core foundational building blocks to all 100% of all functions in the body. And so when you're low in estrogen, when you're low in progesterone, when you're low in testosterone, when you're low in melatonin, when you're low in bone density, it all starts with a dysregulation or a dysfunctional vitamin, mineral, and amino acid pathway. And we have to understand what that is. So just because you eat clean doesn't mean that you have a good diet. Just because you focus on whole foods doesn't mean that you're nutrient dense, doesn't mean you're absorbing everything. So once we get that cellular panel done, it's only at that point that we can personalize nutrition. It's only at that point that we can personalize supplementation. It's only at that point that we can personalize nutrient density, because if we're dysfunctional or deficient in nutrients, our body has to adapt to that and figure out how to get what it needs in order to do what it's supposed to do. And at the end of the day, when we come back to this, if we are deficient in nutrients, our body is going to expel or expose symptoms of disease. So you are not disease. You are not what you are experiencing, but rather your body is just experiencing symptoms of what it's actually been neglected. And so once we get back down to the cellular level of what we need from a nutrient standpoint, not only can we start to see things differently. So if you have a low HRV, it is a signal, it is a sign, and my God, what a blessing that this is what we have, that either A, you have high levels of nutrient deficiency, either B, you have high levels of poor sleep quality, or 3, that you are missing out on major oxygen efficiency status, and we need to create change in these 3 categories. You improve these 3, watch HRV go up as an inevitable outcome.
It is so good. Do you feel like when you're dealing with all these people and doing cellular testing, is there, usually if you're following this diet, you're doing pretty good. And I use the word diet not as have a diet, but in this way of eating.
No.
And if you're standard American, you're not.
Oh, it's completely different for everybody. That's the
Really?
coolest part about this. Yeah. When we've looked at it, I would say probably 95% of people who come through have said they've done some other type of serum testing and everything looked great. And every single one of them had at least 8 deficiencies or more. And it's like, oh my God, this makes so much sense, because now we can start to see the pathways that aren't turned on. We can start to see the symptoms that are created with each. And it starts to actually make a lot of sense. When you come back to, well, if you eat this diet no, because it's all based on what your body is doing. And each one of our bodies reacts differently. What environments are you in? What's the air like that you're breathing? What's the hydration status that you have? What's the area in your body that's kind of cracking or breaking more than somebody else? And so it's so personalized, it's so individualized. But once you're actually able to understand what's going on inside of you, and we understand the language of your body, then we can just ultimately step into a very easy, simple process. Again, guarantees an outcome. Like the Lord created us so uniquely. He created us with this deep desire to need fuel, need things. And our body's communicating to us all the time. We just don't know the language of our body. So the world has told us what we need, but it's told us what they want us to need, not what we actually need. And once we're able to go back to you, how you were uniquely created, what your unique system looks like, what your unique season of life looks like, we can bring you back from anything.
Do you yourself have like health practices that you do that are kind of your non-negotiables other than what we've talked about? I know I've watched you on social media, you cold plunge and things like that, which I learned from you that if your HRV is lower than your 10-day average, it's not a good day to cold plunge. Is that true?
Amen. Yep, that's correct.
Love that. But anything like that, any non-negotiables that you always make sure you do?
Yeah, I've got a lot of frameworks that I set. So like I travel 120 days a year. So my team knows that I travel I only take flights at certain times, not to disrupt circadian rhythm. They know that as soon as I land, I need to have a rental car. The rental car first stop I make is to a grocery store. I get a rotisserie chicken, yogurt, and a couple pieces of fruit. I put those in my room. My room and the hotel needs to be within walking distance to a gym, as well as that grocery store, as well as a area that I can go and sauna at, because those are just two non-negotiables in my day that I need to be able to hit and have access to. So there's certain frameworks like that that I have. I do always make sure I sauna every single day. We know that once we sleep and get the quality of glymphatic stimulation, we need to get rid of the toxins that it's created. And the best way in which to do that, in which to remove toxins from the body, there's only 4 ways: stool, urine, respiration rate or breath, and sweat. And the best concentration of it is sweat. So I need to sweat deeply every single day. Yeah, those are some of the things that I do. I start my day every single day with 10 ounces of hydrogen water, followed immediately by 20 ounces of electrolyte water. So again, making sure my cells are primed, different things like that, but that have just kind of become habits in my day, staples, to make sure that, again, I'm stewarding this gift that I get to utilize every single day.
I love every single one of those. I'm looking at my sauna over here. I just had my hydrogen water earlier this morning. It's just fantastic. What about supplements? Are there any, like, here's my top 2, or I always have these?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, like, and this is not a plug, but I hate, it's probably the biggest myth out there is when somebody comes on and says, this is the best supplement you can ever take. Because quite frankly, I don't know what you need until we actually understand what you're deficient at cellularly. And
Very
so
bio-individual. True.
I literally take one product, and it's literally the product that we develop for me through my cellular testing. I get that redone every single quarter. And right now I'm taking 6 tabs of the supplement that I needed. Last quarter, I was taking 8 of a different formula. And next quarter, I'll take something else based off the different formula that comes back based on what it is that we need. So it's very unique, very individualized. The one thing I will say is that not just for everybody, but for females specifically, as well as children, getting folic acid out of your diet is critical. A lot of times we believe that we've been told, even during pregnancy, what are you told you're supposed to take? Folic acid.
Supplements. Yeah.
So folic acid is a man-made form of folate, and the actual absorbable form or bioavailable form is actually called 5-methyl tetrafolate. And so when you think about this concept, there's folate in everything. We don't actually have a gluten intolerance. We have a folic acid intolerance in our country. And we've got, even through Own It, we've had 14 women who haven't been able to see pregnancies through that. All of a sudden, we eliminated a lot of the enriched vitamins. So the enriched and fortified vitamin D, vitamin B, the niacins, the folates, and we removed them and we gave them bioavailable forms that were based around what they needed. And I would say 11 of those 14 women at this past Christmas had children that they were able to
Wow.
celebrate with, not because we cure infertility, but rather because we give the body what it needs to heal itself and ultimately do what it was designed to do. And so the things I would eliminate from your body, I can tell you more than what I would tell you to take unless we did your testing, but eliminating folic acid and any other type of fortified nutrients, fortified foods, that's ultimately what would be my tip on that.
What is that that's common? What are those foods?
Yeah, so your cereals, you'll see a lot of cereals, fortified nutrients. If you go to the back, they'll have like the ingredients. Under the ingredients, Cheerios is a great one to look at, where all of a sudden it's got your ingredients of what's in it, and then it's got vitamins and minerals, and it lists all the vitamins and minerals that are fortified in there. Your body doesn't know what to do with those. They actually can't break it down. And what ends up happening is it actually ends up creating a toxicity element, and we can actually track that through homocysteine, which is another thing that we'll look at in your blood work. And so we're living in this world where homocysteine levels are at toxic levels, and even in human or in adults, but in children, it's even worse because that toxicity level actually starts to manifest and show up in things like autism and things like ADHD and things like behavioral disorders that we're ultimately placing on kids, then putting them on Ritalin and putting them on a bunch of other behavioral meds, SSRIs. And this is the way in which we can start to reduce this naturally. And so that's what I would pull out. Easy way to go about this. Again, I challenge everybody on this podcast listening, go into your kitchen and look at any food that has 3 ingredients or more, toss it, because I guarantee you have no idea what ingredients 4 through 35 even are. And so 3 ingredients or less, it's an easy rule of thumb to kind of go off of. But then eliminating any food that has folic acid, your breads, your bagels, your cereals, your packaged goods, your granola bars, your baked goods. Look at it all. It will all say enriched wheat flour. You'll dive down a little deeper. It'll say folic acid. Get rid of it. Get rid of that stuff and move it from your kids in your life for about 3 weeks or more. You'll notice a completely different child.
You heard he said 3 ingredients or less. I've always said 5 ingredients or less, and he's going to challenge us. 3 ingredients or less. I love that. If we shouldn't be eating from a package, but if we have to eat from a package, 3 ingredients or less. That's a great rule of thumb. What is one thing that everybody could do kind of right away to help reduce stress in their lives?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I actually say I don't want you to reduce stress because I don't want you to do less. I want you to increase your capacity. And so if we can
That's
increase
great.
your capacity, because I think we live in this world, right, where it's like, how do I reduce stress? No, I don't want to reduce stress. I don't want you to do less. I don't want to pull you away from what you love. I don't want you to pull you away from your family. I don't want to pull you away from your friends and doing things and being out. I want to give you the capacity so that you can do that stuff and actually feel better and actually feel good and actually feel energized and actually wake up and want to play with your kids and actually come home from work and have the extra overflowing energy to go and do the things that you're wanting to do and not collapse down into bed. At the end of the day, like, we have to realize that this tool we've been given, the tool is not the obstacle. The tool is not the obstacle. The tool is the friend. The problem is that your friend is just dull. And how do we actually start to sharpen that?
So good. All right. So I know one way we can all do it. First of all, we need to get our cellular testing and work with Justin and his team. So tell us kind of Cliff Notes version, what you do and how people can find you and who should be working with you.
Yeah, like I said, it's the people who want to actually understand the truth of what's going on inside their body and actually take ownership of it, take back the control, actually feel empowered, equipped, and educated to be able to step into new routines, new rhythms. And so when people work with us, you have your entire integrated team together. You've got your nutritionist, you've got your strength coach, you've got your functional medicine doc, and you've got your mental performance or cognitive behavioral therapist, all working together that are looking at your wearable device information on a daily basis, communicating with you, helping you, guiding you, putting your purposeful practices together, putting your exact fitness program together, things like we talked about today, your exact nutrition plan, custom compounding supplementation for you, doing all of your testing, DNA, epigenetic, cellular testing, and really taking you on a journey. This is not I said it at the beginning, this is not a weight loss journey for us. This is a transformational journey for us. Now, is the consequence for many people weight loss? Yes. Is the consequence for some people reversal of autoimmune disorders? Yes. Is it getting children that they didn't have before? Yes. Is it your pancreas magically turns on and you no longer have diabetes? Yes. Is a reversal of getting you off the statins, off of the Prozacs, off of a lot of these other pharmaceuticals? Yes. That's the byproduct of going on a transformational journey that you'll experience with when you go on our team. And so ownitcoaching.com is where you can find more about us, more about what we do. Just feel free to grab a call with our team there and we can see what your personalized journey looks like.
And guys, he loves Jesus. Like on top of that, I mean, come on. This is the real deal. This is what you need because it's not just about your body. It's soul work. It's soul work.
It's very good.
And you can't do that without being lockstep with the Lord.
The cool thing too, Kerstin, I'll tell you, I'll kind of finish on this, is it was just on our heart. So you know how every year, I don't know if you do this, but personally, every single year I have a word of the year. Like I pray for probably the last quarter, like, Lord, what do you want me to do next year? What does this look like? My words of the years have always been so prophetic. It's just been so cool to see. And last year it was prepare, and prepare actually became the acronym for one of my books I wrote. And it was preparing for where we were going because at the end of the year, our business took off and I was just like, prepare for this. Like, if you want me to ultimately bless you, you better be prepared for what I'm about to handle you. And then this year it's been excellence, like everything you do in excellence. And in excellence, I was actually sitting here going, my gosh, like that means we're going to have excellence in everything. But no, excellence actually means we slowed down on a lot of things. We said no to a lot of things. We actually started to hone in and make sure everything we did was excellent because what we thought we were doing, there was actually some holes. And we had to slow down in order to go fast. And so I say all of that to say, because for our business, we also get words. So that was for me. That's my personal word. But for our business, we've also have words of the year. And this year it was tell the story. And so tell the story. And so this year we're telling, because we'll serve our 1,500th client this year, which is just so cool. And we'll have 1,500 active, which is just amazing. And we are telling 100 stories this year. And so I've been from January until today. I think I just did this morning my 71st interview with people who have had transformational experiences through Own It. And my gosh, I cannot wait to start getting these out because the stories are what remind me that we're doing the right thing. The stories are what give people hope that, my gosh, I see myself in that person. Man, I am that person. And there's a hope for somewhere there, for something new. And so at the end of the day, all we say is that own it. What makes us different? We just love people more. And not only are we creating transformation, but we're putting hope back in the hopeless.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, thank you, Justin, so much for being here. You're such a blessing. Such a blessing. Please check him out. Check it out. Check out the coaching as well. Follow him on all social media. And I hope that we get to chat again, because this has been fantastic.
So good. I appreciate you, Kerstin.
Hey, I just jumped out of the studio and I'm in my home office where I just got done doing some of my health coaching clients. And actually, I was talking to one of them about HRV and VO2 max and encouraging her to get to those goals, just like Justin said. I hope you got a lot out of that episode. I know I sure did. I'm using it all the time. Coming up on the next episode of StRest, we're going to talk all about hormones. And in fact, the one thing that might be aging you more than anything else, and it's actually controllable. We're going to be talking to Cornell and Harvard-educated doctor, Dr. Adrienne Denese. You probably know her from QVC and her amazing line of skincare, Dr. Denese Skin Science, but she really is passionate about cognition, hormone health, and you being able to age gracefully and live longer. So we have a great conversation with the talented and beautiful Dr. Adrienne Denese. That's coming up on the next episode of StRest. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews help others find the podcast and join our community. Follow me on social media at Kerstin.Lindquist for daily tips and inspiration. And visit my website at www.Kerstin-Lindquist.com to sign up for our newsletter and receive exclusive content. The information provided in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions that you may have regarding a medical condition. The host of this podcast is a certified health coach and medical researcher, not a licensed medical professional, and the content shared does not constitute medical advice. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, we encourage you to do your own research and consult with your healthcare provider before making any changes to your healthcare treatment plans. Thank you for joining me on this journey to reduce stress and make room for rest. Remember, you're not alone. Keep coming back, share your story, ask for help, and give yourself grace.